వచ్చారా స్టూడెంట్స్ స్టార్ట్ చేశారు అయినా Good morning, students. I'm going to show you a video demonstration of cesarean section today. I hope you are all staying home and staying safe. See, what do we want to learn today? What are our aims and objectives? We want to know the definition of what is cesarean section, what are the indications for which we have to do a cesarean, when should we do a cesarean, that is the time of the operation, what are the types of cesarean section that we are doing, what is lower segment cesarean section, and what is classical cesarean section. So by the end of this class, I want all of you to at least answer these simple questions. And cesarean section is the basic surgery of in obstetrics and gynecology. So that's the reason you have to know everything about C-section. So what is the definition of cesarean section? Cesarean section, it is an operative procedure where the fetus is delivered through an incision on the abdominal wall and the uterine wall. When it is delivered abdominally, then it is called as cesarean section. And cesarean section has to be differentiated from secondary abdominal pregnancy. What is secondary abdominal pregnancy? Secondary abdominal pregnancy is the one where the fetus grows in the abdomen, because after fertilization, the embryo comes out through the fallopian tube, through the fimbriae, and it grows as a parasite in the abdomen. So that is called secondary abdominal pregnancy. That and cesarean section has to be differentiated. Then it is not called as C-section. It is called as secondary abdominal pregnancy, wherein we remove the baby by giving an incision on the abdominal wall. And when is the time when we do a cesarean? It is always after 28 completed weeks. Only then we call it as cesarean section. And before that, we call it as hysterotomy operation. And there are two types of cesarean section: primary cesarean and repeat cesarean. What is primary cesarean section? When we do a cesarean section for the first time on a primary gravida, then it is called primary cesarean section. And we do a cesarean section on a patient who has been already operated before during her prior pregnancy, then it is called as repeat cesarean section. Now, what is the incidence of cesarean section nowadays? The incidence of cesarean is steadily rising. During the last decade, there has been threefold rise from the initial rate of 10%. And what are the reasons for increase in the cesarean sections? There is a whole lot of indications in your textbook. I would like you to read them, because I will not go into the detail, because if we don't have so much time, because we will be losing time. So that is given in your textbook, and I want you to go through all the indications. And what is one of the reasons why people are preferring cesarean now? Because there is improved safety of the operation because of improved anesthesia. Blood transfusion, if required, is available readily nowadays, and even antibiotics, various antibiotics are also available today. So that is the reason why it is becoming one of the increasing. We are seeing an increased rate of cesarean sections nowadays. Previously, they used to go for operative vaginal delivery like forceps or vacuum, and nowadays we see that these operations are not favored by the obstetricians. Instead, if there is any problem, they are going for cesarean section instead. And what are the indications for cesarean section? Cesarean section is done when the labor is either contraindicated or when vaginal delivery is found unsafe for the mother and the fetus. When is labor contraindicated? When the labor is usually contraindicated when there is any tumor or anything in the cervix and where vaginal delivery is not possible, or when vaginal delivery is found unsafe. That is in some conditions like placenta percreta, placenta increta, and some cases of placenta previa, central placenta previa. In such cases, vaginal delivery is unsafe for mother as well as the fetus. So in such cases, we'll plan an elective cesarean section on a planned date, and then we go for the surgery. So indications can be classified into two types: absolute indications, where you have to do only cesarean. It is a must where there is a tumor in the cervix, like cervical fibroid, huge cervical fibroid, any cervical carcinoma cases. In all such cases, they are called absolute indications where only cesarean section has to be done, like central placenta previa, placenta percreta, placenta increta, and all those conditions. What are the relative indications? Relative indications are those where cesarean section is done after giving a trial of labor, like previous cesarean section, any CPD, breech presentation. In all such cases, these are all called relative indications. There are also another type of classification called recurrent and non-recurrent indications. Recurrent indications are those where patient has to go for cesarean. The condition is recurring, like such as CPD. CPD, once it occurs, it is there even in second pregnancy. So that type of condition is called as recurrent indication. And what is non-recurrent indication? Non-recurrent indication is again fetal distress, breech presentation, because in this pregnancy she might have breech, but in the next pregnancy she might have a cephalic presentation, wherein you can go for a normal vaginal delivery after cesarean. It is called as, previously it is called as VBAC, now they are calling it as TOLAC, trial of labor after cesarean. So these are called recurrent and non-recurrent indications. It is also one of the classification. And what is the time of operation when you do a C-section? So the operation is done at a pre-arranged time, and there are two types. Depending on the time of operation, it is again classified into two types. One is elective and the next one is emergency cesarean section. So what are the elective conditions? The elective, what is elective cesarean section? Elective cesarean section is termed as when the operation is done at a pre-arranged time of pregnancy to ensure best quality of obstetrics, anesthesia, neonatal resuscitation is there, and nursing services are provided. So when we arrange for all of these things, that is the obstetrician should be present, anesthesia personnel should be present, and a pediatrician for neonatal resuscitation and nursing, and nurses are also alerted before time. When everything is available and ready, we give a date to the patient and ask her to come, get admitted on that date, and then we go for cesarean section. This is called as elective cesarean section. Now, what are the benefits of elective section? Well, the benefits are, there is reduction in the perinatal mortality and morbidity, and there is, since we are not giving any trial of labor to the women, there is no pelvic floor dysfunction, chance of pelvic floor dysfunction at later date. So what are the risks involved? All operations, they carry a risk. That is, there is a long recovery time and hospital stay. Long recovery time is like any cesarean section, there is the recovery time might take it up to 3 months. So there is a long recovery time and hospital stay up to 7 days, and risk of placenta previa and hysterectomy in subsequent pregnancy. So once she undergoes a cesarean section, there is always a chance of placenta previa in the next pregnancy. And at the time, if there is any complication during the time of next repeat cesarean section, then she might even land up in hysterectomy. So these are the risks. So compared to vaginal delivery, so cesarean always carries a mild risk. So when is elective section done? Depending on the maturity of the fetus. So we have to first ascertain that the fetus is mature, and once we know that the fetal maturity is confirmed, how do you confirm fetal maturity? Fetal maturity is confirmed by doing an ultrasound examination. And most important are first and second trimester ultrasound examinations are more important to ascertain fetal maturity. First trimester ultrasound is what will determine the expected date of delivery if the woman has wrong dates. So depending on that, we'll calculate the number of weeks the fetus is, and once she has completed 39 completed weeks, then we go and plan for elective cesarean section. So elective section is always planned depending on fetal maturity. So when the maturity is certain, operation is done 1 week prior to the expected date of delivery. That is at 39, after 39 completed weeks, we can plan and do the cesarean section. When the maturity is uncertain, when we do not know, and when is fetal maturity, that is, if the woman says she has irregular periods and her dates are wrong, then what do? We do an ultrasound assessment. So we have to rely on the ultrasound assessment which is done in the first trimester and the second trimester. Usually the ultrasound in the first trimester gives you the exact expected date of delivery. So we usually refer to the first trimester ultrasound examination to know her expected date of delivery. Or we can even look at second trimester. If first trimester ultrasound is not available, then we go for second trimester ultrasound to know when is her expected date of delivery. So these first and second trimester ultrasounds are usually reliable for expected date of delivery. So if they are available, then we have to corroborate the date of the woman when she is saying her last menstrual period is and when does her EDD fall, and according to that we have to plan our elective cesarean section. Otherwise, what we can do is, another method is, we can wait for spontaneous onset of labor. Once we have decided that we have to do a cesarean section, then we can wait till she goes into labor spontaneously. And once she goes into labor spontaneously, then we can immediately shift and do a cesarean section for her. That is another way of determining fetal maturity. So what is emergency cesarean section? Emergency cesarean section is, there are some nice guidelines. Sorry, I mean, there is nothing here, but I'll just tell you what is emergency section. Emergency section is when the fetus or the mother's health is in jeopardy and we have to do a cesarean section immediately. It is called as emergency cesarean section. We do not see whether the anesthetist is available, pediatrician is available. They are all made ready within few seconds, and then we have to shift the patient immediately. So depending on that, there are some NICE guidelines. It is called as NICE guidelines, which are given in your textbook. So according to NICE guidelines, there are 4 guidelines. Category 1 is when it is very, very important to do a cesarean section immediately, and that cesarean section has to be done within 30 seconds. Sorry, within 30 minutes. First 30 minutes, the section has to be done. We have to arrange for everyone in that and shift the patient and do where we should be out within first 30 minutes after the decision has taken for a cesarean section. This is category 1. What is category 2? Where, because immediately if you do not deliver within the next 30 seconds, there is a risk of losing the baby. So immediately, that is called, when the fetus is in jeopardy. That is category 1. What is category 2? Category 2 is where a little delay is okay. So that is category 2, where we can plan the cesarean section and do it within the next 1 to 2 hours. That is category 2. What is category 3? Category 3 is when you can do within next 24 hours, we can plan the cesarean section and do. And category 4 is when there is no emergency to the mother and fetus, where you can plan and then you can do a cesarean section. That is category 4. These are the NICE guidelines which are given for emergency cesarean section, and they are all given in your textbook. Then you can go through them. Then what are the types of cesarean sections which we normally do? The type are, there are 2 types of cesarean section. One is lower segment cesarean section, and second one is the classical or the upper segment cesarean section. What is lower segment cesarean section? Lower segment is usually formed during the labor. When the patient sets into labor, then that is a time when the lower segment is formed. It is formed between the anatomical and the histological internal os, and it usually measures about 10 centimeters in length. That segment is called, it usually corresponds to the isthmus of the non-pregnant uterus. So that is called the lower segment. And classical or upper segment is when we do a cesarean section by giving an incision on the fundus of the, just below the fundus of the uterus. That is classical or upper segment. Nowadays, classical upper segment is not done. Only lower segment cesarean section is being preferred, because classical or upper segment is associated with a huge amount of blood loss, and it is very difficult to control bleeding when we give an incision in the upper segment. Instead, lower segment is relatively avascular compared to the upper segment. So we usually prefer to do lower segment cesarean section nowadays. So now we will see each one. What is lower segment cesarean section and how do we go about lower segment cesarean section? In this approach, the baby is extracted through an incision made in the lower segment through a transperitoneal approach, where the uterovesical fold of the peritoneum is cut and we separate it, and then we give an incision in the lower segment and we extract the baby. This is lower segment cesarean section. Oh, this is the only method which is practiced in the present day obstetrics. And extraperitoneal approach used to be done. Extraperitoneal approach was done previously, but nowadays it is obsolete. Actually, only transperitoneal approach is being followed nowadays. And what is classical or upper segment cesarean section? Classical is, in this, the baby is extracted through an incision in the upper segment of the uterus, and its indications in present day obstetrics are limited and done only in forced circumstances. When doing a lower section is impossible, only then they go for upper segment cesarean section. Lower segment, either when in cases where the lower segment approach is difficult, where in cases where the placenta is implanted completely over the lower segment, then approach to lower segment is difficult. In such cases, we can go for upper segment. And in such cases, even we have to plan for cesarean hysterectomy before, and we have to go for upper segment approach. Or when the lower segment approach is risky, when there is a huge fibroid in the lower segment. So, or when there is a carcinoma which has spread to the lower segment of the uterus, then also approach to the lower segment is risky and we cannot do a cesarean section even in such case. And next, there is another term called perimortem cesarean section. What is perimortem cesarean section? This is done to extract a live baby from a dead mother. Okay, this is called perimortem cesarean section, or when the mother is on the deathbed. Then we do a cesarean to extract a live baby. It is an extremely emergency procedure where the infant may survive if the delivery is done within 10 minutes of maternal death. So, the delivery should be done within 10 minutes of maternal death. So, it is an extremely emergent cesarean section. And mostly in such cases, classical cesarean section is the preferred method in such cases. Now, we'll go through the steps in lower segment cesarean sections so that you can understand the video which I'm going to show you better. Okay. So, how do we go for a lower segment cesarean section? First is preoperative preparation. Any cesarean section or any surgery starts with preoperative preparation of the patient. So, we have to take a written informed permission for the procedure. Not only that, even for blood transfusion and even for anesthesia, permission has to be obtained. Then the abdomen should be scrubbed with a non-organic iodine solution. The hair can be clipped. Previously, hair used to be cut, but nowadays they are preferring it to be clipped because it reduces the chance of infection. And non-particulate antacid is given orally before transferring the patient to the theater. Then Rantac should be given per oral in the night before and also 1 hour before the surgery. Next, antibiotic can also be given, or it can be given just before the start of cesarean section. Usually we give injection Taxim 1 gram intravenously. It is given by the anesthetist, or it can be given even in the ward before shifting the patient. And metoclopramide or Perinom. We usually prefer Jofer here. It is given intravenously 3 minutes before pre-oxygenation in the theater. 3 minutes after pre-oxygenation in the theater, or we can give even in the ward. Zofer is given even in the ward and then patient is shifted. And that is the antibiotic and Zofer is given. What is the use of giving Zofer? Because it will increase the turn of the lower esophageal sphincter as well as to reduce the stomach contents. And Rantac is given to reduce the acidity of the stomach contents. And we have to see that stomach should be emptied if necessary. So for this, we give a soap water enema on the day of surgery at 6 a.m. and the patient is kept NBM, nil by mouth, for at least 6 hours prior to surgery. Bladder is kept empty by the use of a Foley's catheter during the complete operative procedure, and fetal heart sound should be ascertained before the start of the surgery. And neonatologist or a pediatrician should be made available for the surgery, and a cross-matched blood should be kept ready before we start the surgery. And if we think that the blood loss is above average, we have to immediately start blood transfusion intraoperatively itself. And usually there is a chance for intraoperative blood transfusion in cases of multiple cesareans and placenta previa. So anesthesia. Anesthesia, what type of anesthesia we prefer in a cesarean section? It can be either spinal, epidural or general. But general is very rare. We usually go for spinal. And sometimes even epidural also can be given. And depending on the choice which the patient gives, whether she wants what type of anesthesia and the urgency with which we have to deliver the baby, these all conditions predetermine what type of anesthesia we have to give. Then how should be the position of the patient in cesarean section? The patient is usually placed in dorsal position, but in some cases where there is vena cava compression, then to minimize the adverse effect of the vena cava compression, we will keep a wedge on her left side and we'll give her a 15 to 30 degree tilt to her left using a wedge till the baby is delivered, after which it is removed. Next, antiseptic painting. The abdomen is clean with 7.5% povidone iodine solution or a Savlon solution, and she has to be draped with sterile towels. Then incision on the abdomen. The incision on the abdomen can either be a vertical incision or a transverse incision. In case we are going for a classical cesarean section, the incision extends 2 centimeters above the umbilicus to almost 10 centimeters below the umbilicus. So in classical section, we usually give a vertical incision, but in all other normal cases, we give a transverse incision on the abdomen, which is called as, we usually give it is usually called as modified fan and steel incision, which is given 3 centimeters above the symphysis pubis. And vertical incision is always infraumbilical, midline or paramedian incision. Then what is the incision on the uterus? The peritoneal incision, the loose peritoneum of the UV pouch is cut transversely 1.2 centimeters below its attachment to the uterus, and it has to be separated. This UV fold of peritoneum has to be separated because we have to avoid injury to the bladder. So once we separate this peritoneum, we are sure that bladder is safely tucked away. So the lower flap of the peritoneum is pushed downwards and bladder also goes down with that. And now the incision is given on the muzzle. It is also a low transverse incision on the lower segment, and it is the most common type of incision that is used. There are also many other types of incisions which I will be showing you now. So 90% of the cases we use low transverse incision. So this is the loose peritoneum which is present on the lower segment, and this is cut transversely and it is pushed downwards along with the bladder with the help of this Doyne's retractor. Now a short incision is made in the midline up to the membranes. This is the incision on the muzzle where we have to deepen it till the membranes, and next the membranes are ruptured. Then the incision on the lower segment is being enlarged. We'll give a small incision and then we will enlarge using it 2 fingers. It is enlarged, the incision on the lower segment. Now these are the other types of incisions which you usually give in the lower segment. One is the transverse incision, which is lower segment transverse incision, which is used in 90% of the cases. Next one is a vertical incision. Another one is a J-shaped incision. In case the delivery of the baby is difficult, then we extend the incision in a J-shaped manner. This is the D1 is the classical incision which we give on the upper segment of the uterus where we leave the lower segment. And this is an inverted T-shaped incision where a transverse incision is first given, and if the delivery of the baby becomes difficult, we extend the incision from the midline into the upper segment in a inverted T-shape to deliver the baby. So now how do you deliver the head of the baby? The membranes, when the membranes have to be ruptured, and then the liquor is drained, and next we have to insinuate the fingers of our right hand are just below the baby's head, so that the head of the baby is completely flexed during delivery of the cesarean, and slowly we have to ask our assistant to give a fundal pressure, and slowly the baby's head is delivered, where the assistant gives a fundal pressure from here. Your right hand fingers are insinuated in between the head of the baby and the symphysis pubis, making the head flexed, and then gradually the assistant will put fundal pressure. Gradually the baby's head is delivered. Now, when the head is delivered, what you have to do immediately, as soon as the head is delivered, the mucus is sucked from the mouth, pharynx and the nostrils, and completely the face has to be cleaned with a normal gauze piece, and then you should try. Next, we have to deliver the trunk. After the delivery of the shoulders, then gradually we have to deliver the trunk in the same manner in which we do a vaginal delivery, gradually by where the anterior shoulder is hooked under the incision which we give on in the upper portion of the uterus, and gradually it is tilted and gradually delivered. After delivery of the shoulders, the rest of the body will easily come out through the incision. Then intravenous oxytocin is given. And how much of oxytocin is usually given after delivery of the shoulders? It is always 20 units should be given as an infusion, which we mix it in the RL, which is flowing to the patient. 20 units are injected into the RL, and then it is given as continuous IV, or we can give Mithergin 0.2 milligrams intramuscularly in the buttock after delivery of the shoulders, and rest of the body should be delivered slowly. And the baby is placed in a tray with the head tilted down, and the cord has to be clamped, and it is cut in between the clamps. And now the baby is handed over to the nurse, who will take the baby to the pediatrician for examination. So now, once the baby is delivered, what do we do next? We will deliver the placenta and with the membranes. So we have to wait for some time for separation of the placenta, and then we gradually clamp the placenta, cord of the placenta, and gradually we remove the placenta with and as controlled cord traction method, where your left hand is pushing the uterus upwards and your right hand is slowly delivering the placenta. Now, how do we suture the uterus? The uterine incision should be sutured in 3 layers. And what is the suture material which is used for suturing the incision? It is either chromic catgut 1 or Vicryl 0. Now, chromic catgut 0 is also used, chromic catgut 1 is also used, and Vicryl 0 is used for suturing the uterine incision. And it is usually sutured in 3 layers. The first layer is suturing where where the first layer takes the deeper muscles of the muscular layer of the uterus, excluding the decidua. The decidua should be excluded, and deeper layer of muscles are sutured in a continuous layer starting from one angle, and it is tied here when you reach the other angle. Now the second layer is also as a continuous suture, taking the superficial muscles and the fascia of the uterus. It is also sutured continuously and tied at the angle once, and the second layer should bury the first line of sutures. And third layer is usually a continuous suture of the peritoneum, which we have cut. The UV fold of peritoneum which we have cut, that has to be sutured continuously with a catgut. Nowadays, this is not preferred. The peritoneum is usually left open because deepthalization will start taking place within 24 hours. So we are preferring only 2-layer suture method nowadays. Now we'll conclude. Then next, after completing the uterine suture, what we have to do? This is not moss, it is mops. The mops which are placed inside should be removed. The number should be counted. Even you have to make sure that the instrument count is also tallied, and then peritoneal toileting is done, and whatever blood clots that are remaining in the abdomen, they should be removed completely, and the tubes and ovaries are examined. You have to see whether they are normal or not. And once you are satisfied the uterus is well contracted, abdomen is closed in layers, and vagina is cleaned with the vagina is also cleaned, making sure that there are no blood clots, and a sterile vulval pad should be kept in the vagina. Should be kept at the vulva. And what is the post-operative care? The patient is kept under observation for the first 6 to 8 hours, which are very, very important, because in case there is any PPH, it might occur in the first 6 to 8 hours. Next, she has to be kept NBM for at least 24 hours. NBM is nil by mouth, and fluids either RS or NS or RL can be given. And how much they have to be given? At least 2 to 2.5 liters. It is not large, it's liters. And oxytocin, if required, you can give. And prophylactic antibiotics are started. We usually here we give taxim injection 1 gram IV BD, and analgesics like we give here diclofenac 1 ampule intramuscularly twice. And next we have to encourage the patient to move her legs, and she can move in lateral direction onto the right or left and move her legs. So we should ask the patient to ambulate. Once after 6 hours are completed, even the patient can get up, and if she can walk, it has to be, ambulation should be encouraged to avoid any venous thrombosis. And baby should be asked, and the mother should be asked to breastfeed the baby after 3 to 4 hours. Here we are immediately giving the baby for breastfeeding. And on day 1, we will put the mother on. We will remove the Foley's catheter, ask her to go for toilet regularly, every 1 hourly. Then later on, she has to gradually increase the period of going to the toilet. Next, she is put on oral fluids, that she can start some oral fluids on day 1. On second day, soft diet is started. Soft diets, and from day 3rd onwards, she has to go for normal diet, and other antibiotics and everything are continued, and normal ambulation is encouraged. And day 5 or 6, we can do removal of stitches. We can do either on day 5 or day 6, and we have to, if we are doing on day 6 or day 5, we will keep the woman for 1 day for observation of the stitches, and then immediately on the next day we discharge the patient. So this is how we do a cesarean section, from preoperative to postoperative care. Next is classical cesarean section. What is classical cesarean section? It is an abdominal incision which is always longitudinal, and it is 15 centimeters. The uterine incision is anterior, it is given on the anterior wall, and it is longitudinal incision of 12.5 centimeters, which starts from below the fundus and up to the lower segment. The uterine incision is given, and it is deepened till the membranes are exposed, and then the membranes are punctured, and baby is delivered. Always in classical C-section, baby is delivered as breech extraction. And then once the baby is delivered, oxytocin 5 units is given slowly IV, or methergin 0.2 milligrams can be given, and rest of the post-operative care and other thing is same as that of normal cesarean section. So now the placenta is again extracted by controlled contraction or can be removed manually, and the uterine incision in this is also sutured in 3 layers, where a continuous suture with number 0 chromic catgut or vicryl taking deep muscles excluding the decidua. The second layer is interrupted with chromic catgut number 1 or vicryl taking the entire depth of the superficial muscles down to the first layer, and the third layer is done. Third layer is the peritoneum, continuous. It is a continuous suture with chromic catgut number 0. So third layer nowadays it is not usually preferred. Some are doing, some are not doing. Here we are not doing the third layer. So that is how you do, and rest of the post-operative care is same as that of normal lower segment section. Now we will watch some videos of. We'll go for video. I have told you about all this because so that you can understand the video better. Once you know how a cesarean section takes place. So we'll watch the video now. He is explaining everything, so I want you to listen carefully to whatever he is explaining. And once the session is over, you can ask me any questions you have.
Welcome to our educational video. This video has been developed by MedNav. MedNav is an organization that helps to promote women's and children's health worldwide through education and innovation. If you'd like to know more about our work or indeed support us, please visit this website link.
Caesarean section for cephalic and non-cephalic presentation.
So this is all they'll be telling us about.
In this video, you'll be taught how to perform a caesarean section and how to deliver a baby in various positions in the uterus. This includes cephalic, breech, transverse lie, deeply impacted head, floating head, and classical caesarean section. Before performing a caesarean section, there are some important prerequisites. There's a clear indication the patient has understood and given consent to have the procedure. Appropriate facilities and equipment are available to perform the procedure. Appropriate analgesia, including regional and general anesthesia. If the patient is fully dilated and the baby is not alive, you may want to consider a destructive delivery if access to theater is limited. Please see the link below as an appropriate alternative. Indication for caesarean section.
So these are all the indications for which a cesarean section is done.
You will need an effective light source, sterile gown and gloves, sterile drapes, and a caesarean section set. Typical instruments used in a caesarean section are: it's important that the appropriate suture material are used for the different layers during a caesarean section. Cephalic caesarean section. Throughout the procedure, the patient should be on a left lateral tilt, ideally at 30 degrees. The following steps should be completed in theater prior to caesarean section. Vaginal examination to determine the cervical dilatation and station. This is of particular importance if there are delays in transfer to theater and patient is in labor. Insertion of an indwelling catheter to reduce bladder injury. Assessment of fetal well-being, WHO checklist, prophylactic antibiotic administration. Make a 12 centimeter horizontal suprapubic incision 2 to 3 centimeters above the pubic symphysis. In an abdomen without previous surgery, it is possible to make a 3 centimeter central incision through the subcutaneous layer until you reach the rectus sheath, and then stretch the tissues in a diagonal fashion. Carefully make a horizontal incision to reveal the rectus muscle below. Again, stretch the tissue in a similar fashion. If the patient have had previous abdominal surgery, apply the above steps, but instead make 2 horizontal incisions either side of the midline. This reduces bowel injury as the majority of adhesions are in the midline. Always enter the abdominal cavity high to avoid bladder injury. Insert your finger through the midline of the rectus muscle at 90 degrees. Do a 200 and 60-degree turn with your finger to identify any adhesions. If there are no adhesions, stretch the cavity with your assistant. Check you have enough space to deliver a baby. Ideally at 30 degrees. The following steps should be completed in theater prior to caesarean section. vaginal examination to determine the cervical dilatation and station. This is of particular importance if there are delays in transfer to theater and patient is in labor. Insertion of an indwelling catheter to reduce bladder injury. Assessment of fetal well-being, WHO checklist, prophylactic antibiotic administration. Make a 12 centimeter horizontal suprapubic incision 2 to 3 centimeters above the pubic symphysis. In an abdomen without previous surgery, it is possible to make a 3 centimeter central incision through the subcutaneous layer until you reach the rectus sheath, and then stretch the tissues in a diagonal fashion. Carefully make a horizontal incision to reveal the rectus muscle below. Again, stretch the tissue in a similar fashion. If the patient have had previous abdominal surgery, apply the above steps, but instead make 2 horizontal incisions either side of the midline. This reduces bowel injury as the majority of adhesions are in the midline. Always enter the abdominal cavity high to avoid bladder injury. Insert your finger through the midline of the rectus muscle at 90 degrees. Do a 360-degree turn with your finger to identify any adhesions. If there are no adhesions, stretch the cavity with your assistant. Check you have enough space to deliver a baby. Check to see if there are any uterine rotation by feeling for the round ligaments. The lower uterine segment can be identified by the loose visceral peritoneum. Open the visceral peritoneum at the utrovesical fold. And reflect the bladder inferiorly and push it below the Doyne retractor. Make a 2 centimeter smiley face shaped incision on the lower uterine segment. Deepen the incision until the lower uterine incision is very thin. Blunt entry reduces the chance of fetal laceration. Stretch the incision horizontally and upwards.
Can you see the video
Insert
now?
your hand into the uterus. Identify.
I'm just pausing it. Do you want me to play again? Can you see the video? Everyone, can you see the video? No one can see the video? Okay then, I'll just ask. I'll just call someone. See, I'm playing from the starting. You tell me whether you can see now. Otherwise, I'll just go and call someone, okay?
Welcome to our educational video. This video has been developed by MedNav. MedNav is an organization that helps to promote women's and children's health worldwide through education and innovation. If you'd like to know more about our work or indeed support us, please visit this website link.
Caesarean section for cephalic and non-cephalic presentation.
Just a second, I'll just go and find out. Okay?
In this video, you'll be taught how to perform a caesarean section and how to deliver a baby in various positions in the uterus.
వీడియో కనిపించట్లేదు వస్తుంది. జస్ట్ లింక్ క్లిక్ చేయమన్నారు కదా, మైక్ అయితే బాగానే వస్తుంది. అదే.
Welcome to our educational video. This video has been developed by MedNav. MedNav is an organization that helps to promote women's and children's health worldwide through education and innovation. If you'd like to know more about our work or indeed support us, please visit this website link.
Caesarean section for cephalic and non-cephalic presentation. In this video, you'll be taught how to perform a caesarean section and how to deliver a baby in various positions in the uterus. This includes cephalic, breech, transverse lie, deeply impacted head, floating head, and classical caesarean section. Before performing a caesarean section, there are some important prerequisites. There's a clear indication the patient has understood and given consent to have the procedure. Appropriate facilities and equipment are available to perform the procedure. Appropriate analgesia, including regional and general anesthesia. If the patient is fully dilated and the baby is not alive, you may want to consider a destructive delivery if access to theater is limited. Please see the link below as an appropriate alternative. Indication for caesarean section. You will need an effective light source, sterile gown and gloves, sterile drapes, and a caesarean section set. Typical instruments used in a caesarean section are: it's important that the appropriate suture material are used for the different layers during a caesarean section. Cephalic caesarean section. Throughout the procedure, the patient should be on a left lateral tilt, ideally at 30 degrees. The following steps should be completed in theater prior to caesarean section. Vaginal examination to determine the cervical dilatation and station. This is of particular importance if there are delays in transfer to theater and patient is in labor. Insertion of an indwelling catheter to reduce bladder injury. Assessment of fetal well-being, WHO checklist, prophylactic antibiotic administration. Make a 12 centimeter horizontal suprapubic incision 2 to 3 centimeters above the pubic symphysis. In an abdomen without previous surgery, it is possible to make a 3 centimeter central incision through the subcutaneous layer until you reach the rectus sheath, and then stretch the tissues in a diagonal fashion. Carefully make a horizontal incision to reveal the rectus muscle below. Again, stretch the tissue in a similar fashion. If the patient have had previous abdominal surgery, apply the above steps, but instead make 2 horizontal incisions either side of the midline. This reduces bowel injury as the majority of adhesions are in the midline. Always enter the abdominal cavity high to avoid bladder injury. Insert your finger through the midline of the rectus muscle at 90 degrees. Do a 360-degree turn with your finger to identify any adhesions. If there are no adhesions, stretch the cavity with your assistant. Check you have enough space to deliver a baby. Check to see if there are any uterine rotation by feeling for the round ligaments. The lower uterine segment can be identified by the loose visceral peritoneum. Open the visceral peritoneum at the utrovesical fold. and reflect the bladder inferiorly and push it below the Doyen retractor. Make a 2 cm smiley face shaped incision on the lower uterine segment. Deepen the incision until the lower uterine incision is very thin. Blunt entry reduces the chance of fetal laceration. Stretch the incision horizontally and upwards.
Insert your hand into the uterus. Identify the head and flex it to achieve the smallest AP diameter. Lift your hand without bending your wrist. Ask your assistant to apply fundal pressure and deliver the baby. After the cord has been cut and clamped, deliver the placenta via controlled cord traction. Insert the Doyen retractor. Check that the cavity of the uterus is empty. Apply green armitages to either side of the uterine angles and on any obvious bleeding tissue or vessels.
Preserve the green armitage process.
Secure the uterine angles and close the uterus in 2 layers, ensuring to bury the endometrium. When there is an angle extension, it is important to secure the uterine angles by placing a green armitage on either side of the angle. This is necessary to ensure hemostasis and to avoid injuring the ureters. Note the proximity of the angle extension to the ureters, shown in green, and uterine arteries, shown in red. This is particularly important in obstructed labors as the risk of bladder injury, ureteric injury, and/or fistula formation is high. In cases of obstructed labor with fetal demise, a destructive delivery will prevent this complication. Visit link for video. In cases where there is a uterine rupture or where a bladder injury is suspected, inject 300 ml of methylene blue into the bladder. This will allow identification of any injury.
Clean the paracolic fossa by sweeping a swab on a stick laterally to medially. Visualize the tubes and ovaries.
Check the uterine incision for hemostasis and apply a figure-of-8 suture if needed. Check for rectus sheath hematomas or bleeding vessels. This can be dithyramid or sutured. If the subcutaneous layer is more than 2 centimeters, there is oozing from this area, the incision is not well opposed, and there may be tension in the skin, consider a fat stitch. Breech delivery. Breech presentations occur in 3 to 4% of pregnancies at term. There are 3 types of breech presentation: footling, flexed, and extended breech.
If the buttocks are presenting, deliver them as you would a head. Once the pelvis is delivered, hold the pelvis and rotate so that the back is anterior. Deliver the baby until you see the shoulder blades. Then you can perform your normal breech maneuvers. Levsetz maneuver. Rotate the baby 90 degrees and deliver the anterior arm. Then rotate the baby 180 degrees in the opposite direction to deliver the other arm. Once you identify the nape of the neck, you can apply the Morris-Snelly-Veit technique, which involves placing 2 fingers on the baby's cheekbones and 2 fingers on the back of the baby's neck. Use both hands to flex the baby's head for delivery. If the feet are present, you should hold both feet and deliver them first.
If the above measures are not successful, you can use Wrigley's forceps. Ask your assistant to hold the baby's legs vertically. Apply the forceps below the body as you would in a vaginal delivery. Top tips for breech delivery. Ensure that you have adequate access on the skin and uterus. The lower segment may be less developed. Only handle the baby by its bony parts. Breech presentation is associated with abnormal placentation, maternal and fetal abnormalities, so always be prepared. Floating head. A high head is often encountered in an elective cesarean section when the head is not engaged. It is important not to let the head float away and become a transverse or breech lie.
This can be prevented by your assistant who stabilizes the baby by holding both sides of the uterus firmly. Fundal pressure can then be applied to deliver the baby.
If the baby is not deliverable, you can use a Wrigley's forceps.
Make sure that you or your assistant has checked that the forceps lock. Stabilize the baby's head and apply the first blade inferiorly. Apply the second blade as you would vaginally. Check that the forceps lock. Apply axial traction and deliver the baby.
If the head is high or if it floats away, insert your hand and find a foot. Make sure you do not bring out a hand. You can then deliver the baby via breech extraction. Deeply impacted head. A deeply impacted head is commonly due to obstructed labor or when the patient needs delivery when they are fully dilated. Consider destructive delivery if there's fetal demise and there's limited facilities for cesarean section. Refer to the link below. The uterine incision must be made high to avoid injury to the bladder or vagina. To prevent extensions, ensure that a curved uterine incision is made and you keep your wrist straight during delivery. There are a number of other techniques that can be applied to facilitate delivery. Fetal pillow, push technique, uterotonics, patient's position, T or J incisions, reverse breech extraction. Fetal pillow. This is a device which is inserted into the vagina before cesarean section. It will elevate the fetal head.
Push technique. An assistant can cup the baby's head in their palm and gently flex and elevate the head. Do not apply pressure through your fingers, as there is a risk of skull fracture. This should be done by a senior member of staff.
Head down. Ask your anesthetist to lower the patient's head as much as possible. Ask your anesthetic colleague to give a tocolytic such as GTN, salbutamol or terbutaline. This will cause relaxation of the uterus and allow you to deliver the head. However, this may cause postpartum hemorrhage. T or J incisions. If it is not possible or it is difficult to gain access, you can extend the incision with scissors to create more access. Reverse breech extraction. Find a foot or both feet and deliver the baby by breech. A T or J incision may be needed for access. Be careful not to hyperextend the neck. Transverse lie. A vaginal delivery is not indicated in this presentation. If an external cephalic version, which involves turning the baby to the cephalic position, is not successful, contraindicated, or declined, then a cesarean section is indicated.
Transverse lie could be dorsi-inferior, with the back as facing downwards, or dorsi-superior, with the back as facing upwards. In order to deliver a dorsi-inferior baby, you must identify the posterior leg. This is furthest away from the incision. Apply gentle traction towards the incision. If possible, you may deliver both feet together. If you deliver the closer foot first, the legs may split and it may become difficult to deliver the baby. Or dorsi superior, where the back is facing upwards.
Classical cesarean section. In preterm deliveries, the lower segment may not be fully formed. Therefore, a vertical uterine incision may be required. This is known as a classical cesarean section. Classical cesarean sections are associated with increased surgical risk, such as postpartum hemorrhage. This should be noted preoperatively and appropriate plans put in place. Check for uterine rotation. Make a vertical incision on the uterus in the midline. Use blunt entry into the uterine cavity. Then deliver the baby. If possible, deliver the baby in the sac. Avoid excessive handling of the baby. Only handle bony body parts. When closing the uterus, you will need to close in more than 2 layers to close any dead space, as the uterus will be thick. This will also prevent hematoma formation. Following a classical cesarean section, a vaginal birth is not recommended in future pregnancies. An elective cesarean section should be planned due to the high risk of uterine rupture. Cesarean section top tips. Top tips: always be prepared. Brief your team before the procedure using the WHO checklist. If it is a difficult delivery, always ask for the senior obstetrician and pediatrician to be present. Always be on your guard. Even the simplest procedure can become difficult. Always ask for help if needed. Post-operative care. Women should be
So any questions? Okay, I'm ending the session now, okay? If you have any doubts, you can ask me.